today we have the so-called Dublin Convention, which stipulates that you are going to be, your asylum, whether you apply for it, is going to be processed in the country where you first landed. And that puts a tremendous burden on a few of the southern European nations. And the fact that we have failed so far in the EU, we are 28 member states, to try to help in that process. And some of the member countries just simply refusing to even touch it. And unless Europe can rise up to this challenge, I must say I'm very sad about Europe.
I wonder whether there is not an issue of mutual fear here. I mean, the Western societies, not necessarily the churches or the religion, but also the Westernization and the secular lifestyle has intruded into lots of areas, and they have a fear of losing their identity, the Western ideas taking over. And we have the same situation now in Europe when Muslims come. I mean, very much the discussions are about, are we going to have Sharia being introduced in our countries? And if that happens in the neighborhood, people start to fear.
Stay on your boat.
Anybody ill? Anybody sick? Anybody cold? One child very.
In a country like Sweden, where we didn't have a right-wing populist party some 10 years ago, even to mention, today it's almost 15% in the polls and likely to be 20% in the next election. And they want to close the doors, totally. And one of the reasons is that most of the refugees, those coming to Sweden, they end up in rather small communities, municipalities, where there is already high unemployment rates. And why do they end up there? Well, simply because there are apartments for rent there. So they, in theory, they could stay there, but education is difficult, employment is difficult, and it creates tension in the local community. So it's on another dimension, but still it's going to be a problem. And it is already changing the sort of political landscape in parts of Europe.
I think the paradigm in European politics is we have a refugee crisis. And a crisis is defined that the crisis will, at a certain time, be over, be managed, and so on. And I think that's completely wrong. So we need a different thinking in this regard. The point is we have mixed migration. If you look into the boats coming, the boats on the Mediterranean, you will find half of the people, of the passengers, are refugees in the traditional sense. The Geneva Refugee Convention, so they are people who are persecuted. And for the time being, there is no legal chance to come to the EU to claim asylum. You have to use illegal ways, and you have to rely on smugglers, perhaps on traffickers, to come to the European Union. And we will have more of this type of migration, forced migration, but we will at the same time have more economic migrants, because also economic imbalances will grow. My fear is that if we find no solution for fair responsibility sharing between EU countries, imagine now for the time being, and we will have 1 million asylum seekers this year, more or less, in the EU. 75% of these asylum seekers are taken in by 5 countries, only by 5 countries, and the rest of the EU does nothing. And I predict if we won't able to find a solution, a fair responsibility sharing for refugees, we will have within 5 years a reintroduction of internal borders in the EU. And this will have serious spillover effects to other European integration fields. And I don't know what happens to the idea of EU if border controls are reintroduced.